Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield, back with an old friend and an international megastar, Terry Fator. How are you?
I like that, international megastar, man. That sounds great. Let's keep that.
Can you imagine being offered a 10-year contract in Las Vegas and then getting another one?
I could not have imagined it. Things got much, much bigger than I possibly could have dreamed. You know, I was dreaming big. I was thinking I was going to have to do what pretty much every other headliner has done. And what they usually do is they start at one of the smaller hotels, one of the more unknown ones, and then they kind of build their way up, and then they get in, and then they do a little by little by little. And I just went from complete and total obscurity to suddenly getting a 10-year deal or a 5-year deal that turned into a 10-year deal, and now it's turning into a 15 to 20-year deal, possibly even longer. So, wow.
What I love as well, though, you came prepared. I mean, you'd done 600 years on the road doing every club around the country. You'd perfected your act. So when you came here, you were ready.
Exactly. And, you know, one of the things that made my appearance on America's Got Talent different from a lot of people is that I had been doing so many shows, and I had about 3 to 4 hours worth of material. So it wasn't a matter of, oh my gosh, how am I going to fill this 90 seconds? It was, I've got so much material, what am I not going to do? So it really made my job easy, because I just basically would ask around and say, well, you've seen my show before, to my friends and family, and say, what are my best impressions? And they would say, oh, you got to do Etta James. Oh, you got to do. That's really how Roy Orbison came about, which was a song that actually won America's Got Talent. And I just went home and I said, I have no clue what I'm going to do for this final appearance. And almost every single person said, you have got to do your Roy Orbison. It's one of the best impressions you do. I had never done it without moving my lips, though. So I had to actually work that whole week and learn how to sing it without moving my lips, and then I let my turtle do it. So
I've said to you a million times before, I think you're one of the most charming, wonderful entertainers in Las Vegas, and it's old school but made to look modern, and that's so important. You're taking a craft that's hundreds, decades of years old, and then you make it look so cool, and that's partly down to your energy, but the beauty of these puppets too, as we see Michael there. These are things of beauty, aren't they? They're works of art.
They really are, and it's a real trick to be able to find the people that can do what you want. This is exactly what I saw in my head when I thought I want a Michael Jackson puppet, because a lot of times puppets can look a little creepy. You know, they can be like a little scary, a little creepy. And especially when you're doing a real life puppet. I mean, I've seen some puppets of some real life people that in the past, and it's like, or like a wax museum, you go and it's kind of, there's something a little eerie and creepy about it. So you really have to be careful to make sure that, and look, we made sure that we had lots of soft features and exaggerated features, big eyes, you know, charming. And this is one, when you see it, you instantly recognize, and we'll see Paul McCartney in a little bit. And same thing, as soon as you see Paul McCartney, you know that's Paul McCartney. So it's a real trick, and you're right, it is an art in and of itself to have a puppet that looks so beautiful and so engaging. You immediately want to know, watch the puppet. So that's awesome. All right. So Michael,
oh, hey Terry, how you doing?
So wonderful. It's just, thank you so much for being on my show.
Well, you know, Terry, I always wanted to be in your show.
Well, that's sweet of you. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you know, I'm a huge fan of Terry's.
That's sweet. So do you want to do a little bit?
Yeah, okay. I'll just give you a little example of what I do. She's out of my life. She's out of my life.
That's all we have the rights for. That's all we have the rights for, right. So anyway, there's Michael Jackson.
I love being in Terry Fator's show.
I love you being in my show.
Oh man, we make a good team.
We do, but you also make a good team with Paul McCartney.
Yes, I do. We do a song together too.
What we just saw you do there with Michael is so fascinating, because, I mean, this is a craft that you've spent your entire life mastering. You become a different person, and then this puppet becomes alive. This is amazing what you do. How long did it take you to become so natural at it that it looks perfect?
Decades, absolutely decades. And I was a little bit crazy, not literally, but I went home to my parents one time and my family. We had a brother, a sister, and a mom and dad. And I told them that I wanted to be a professional ventriloquist. I think I was 12 or 13 at the time. And I said, I don't want you to think I'm out of my mind, but I really need to get a rapport with my puppet. I need to learn to feel the puppet is real, so that I can carry on a real conversation, because I was so uncomfortable with the puppet. So I said, I'm not only going to do this at home, but I'm going to bring the puppet to the dinner table. I'm going to carry the puppet around with me and let the puppet interact with us. And amazingly, nobody gave me any problems with it. They all said, that sounds great. So I carried this stupid puppet around with me for about 6 months. And I had this puppet at the dinner table, and somebody would say something and the puppet would react, and I would react to the puppet. And that took about 6 months. And then, of course, just, I've been doing this since I was 10. I'm 53 in a month, or couple of weeks, actually. 3 weeks, I'm 53. So what's that? 43 years I've been doing this. So it's just constant. And now I'm to a point where I don't even really have to think about it. I mean, I pick up a puppet and he immediately engages and reacts. And I can interrupt myself with the puppet, but there's never a time when I lose my mind and think the puppet might be real. If that happens, then I think it's time for me to go off somewhere for a little while. But it's never happened.
I think, as well as all that we've spoken about, it's this sort of triple threat plus the band that makes the show perfect. There's the comedy, there's the puppets, there's you, and then the singing. These are 4 elements that I don't think anybody else does in the world, certainly not as well as you that I've seen. Are you an amazing singer? Are you an amazing ventriloquist? Or are you a comedian? What are you?
I think I'm everything, and I don't. It's really hard to pigeonhole what I do. It really is. I love singing. I've worked very hard to be the best singer that I can, especially impressionist. When I'm doing impressions of somebody, I want it to sound exactly like the original artist, if possible. I'm very proud to be a ventriloquist, but I don't feel like that's. My wife loves to say this. When somebody says, what do you do for a living? And if they don't know who I am, I'll say, I'm a ventriloquist. And my wife immediately will interrupt me and say, that doesn't even begin to explain what he is. And so I guess that's really true. I mean, I think I'm an all-around entertainer, and I really loved that old style where you had the Rat Pack and you had Sammy Davis Jr. who could dance and who could act and who could do comedy and who could sing. So I think I was really driven by that era, the vaudeville. I don't even know if you know what vaudeville is. A lot of the people watching probably don't. But I grew up reading books about vaudeville and watching old movies and watching the Rat Pack and watching Elvis Presley and thinking, I want to be more than just one thing. I want to be able to try to bring out every bit of talent that I can possibly find in myself.
The guys are obviously fascinated with this interview, as we can see. They haven't taken their eyes off me since we started. We should maybe meet Paul. Should we have a chat with him?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's meet Paul. So we have Paul McCartney. Yes, one of the original Beatles. Of course, they're English. They know exactly who I am. Yes, Paul McCartney. And thank you for joining. Yes, I had to join the show because Michael starts flirting with a woman in the audience. And I have to come in and let them know, the girl is mine. The doggone girl is mine. Right. So we sing that song with Michael Jackson. Is that the only reason I'm in the show? No, actually, you're in there. There's a lot of great comedy with Paul as well. Yes, there certainly is. I'm much funnier than Michael.
That's not true.
Hey, be quiet. Anyway, there's Paul McCartney. It's nice to being on your show, Alex.
As we sit here now, we're surrounded by all of these friends of yours, really. And I think that's what's beautiful about the show is the warmth you bring to it. You still look like you enjoy it. I wonder, some 11 years in, 12 years into this theatre, this huge theatre here in the Mirage at Las Vegas, added into that your personal happiness with Angie, you must be in a great place right now.
I mean, the best place I've ever been in my entire life. And it's been a very rocky life. I have not had an easy time. Some of the worst years of my life are after America's Got Talent and all the big success. A lot of heartbreak, a lot of trouble. But, nobody's immune. If you think that getting rich and famous is going to solve all your problems, it doesn't. Finding yourself and finding your center, and it really helps to find a significant other. To find someone, it's interesting because I never knew what it really meant to be absolutely wholeheartedly loved until Angie came along. And that really has changed. It's centered me and it's really calmed me in many, many ways. So that was huge for me to find her. And she's been so supportive and amazing. And then, of course, the career is doing great. Here at the Mirage, it's like a family. We have a great relationship with the people here at the Mirage. And the president of the Mirage, when I was doing my 9th year, he said, we need to put a 2 or a 3 in front of that. And I said, I'm all for it. Let's do it. I want to be the longest running headliner in Vegas ever when I'm done. So I love doing this.
And again, what a compliment that they ask you back and they give you this beautiful theatre to perform in. I mean, I spent some time with you and Angie a couple of years ago. And again, she's smarter than you, which is brilliant because it means there's no sort of fan element. She's there because she admires you, loves you, and respects you. That's what you're looking for in a relationship, isn't it?
No, it's so true. You're absolutely right. And I think every man needs a woman that's smarter than them. And the funny thing is that I think I'm smarter than her, but I would say 99.9% of the time when we argue, it turns out she's right. But, I don't think it'll ever stop, that I'll ever stop thinking I'm smarter, but she'll continually show me up almost every single time. And boy, those times when I'm right, I'm like, hey, holy crap, I was just right about something. That's kind of a good feeling. But 3 years in, we've known each other for 3 years. I'm beginning to trust her. I'm beginning to learn that when she says something, my ears perk up and I go, okay, you're always right. So I think maybe I ought to listen, So it's fantastic, though. What an amazing experience to have her. And the thing is she didn't know who I was. She was too busy. She worked, so she never saw America's Got Talent, never heard of me. Her sister voted for me. So she comes in. I hired her to do. She was a caterer, and I hired her to cook for me and for a party I was doing. And we met, started going out, and then she calls her sister and says, have you ever watched America's Got Talent? Her sister says, all the time. And she said, have you heard of this guy, Terry Fator? And she said, yeah, and she said, I'm dating him. She's like, you're dating Terry Fator? So it was kind of a fun thing to be able to be brought into a family that had seen me and was a fan. But Angie never was. Angie didn't know who I was, and she just fell in love with me for my personality, for my winning personality. So
there you go. How do you keep it fresh? My final question, when you go out there night after night doing the same act, is it adding in one new joke a day? Is it tweaking something during the day? Because to look bored on stage is the ultimate sin in Las Vegas.
Yes, and yes, all the time. I'm always trying to find little ways that I can tweak the show, and also I keep it fresh by constantly adding new things. So every few months, few weeks, and when the show starts to feel like it's settling, I say, all right, I'm going to write a whole new routine for Maynard or for Julius or for Michael Jackson, and it just keeps things really exciting and fresh for me. There's nothing like going out and trying new material because you write something and you're 100% sure it's going to work, and usually about 80% of it does, and then you have to figure out what didn't and try to find out why and maybe tweak it or just take it out, and just only do the 80%. So. But it's really fun, and I think the reason that I keep it fresh, and I will always be able to keep it fresh, is because I love what I'm doing. I love it. I walk on that stage, and it's like, people say, oh, you should jump out of an airplane, and there's no thrill. I said, oh, you don't know what it's like when I walk on that stage. Don't need to jump out of an airplane. Don't need to do any of that crazy stuff that people do, because walking out on that's my thrill. That's the adrenaline pumping. People are cheering for you. You're making them laugh. You're making them feel good. It's fantastic. It's the best high in the world. It really is.
What I love about your show more than anything is the diversity. 1 minute you can be crying. You do these very emotional moments where you pay tribute to the audience, and on a Memorial Day, I'm sure tonight's show will be extra special. Mm-hmm. You're also equally hysterical. You've got that beautiful band. It looks great. And then there you are shining throughout. So it is the perfect night out in Las Vegas here at Mirage. Terry, you were so sweet to my mum and dad a couple of years ago, and I'll never forget that. You're a top man. Congratulations on the show. Come and see Terry Fator here at Mirage. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alex. Always a pleasure. I look forward to doing it next year.
Brilliant.